Good morning, guys. I just wanted to go over a couple of problems on solving a system of equations. I know some of you saw this already on our Zoom session on Tuesday. These problems are a little bit different. So hopefully when you get to similar problems on IXL today, you'll have a little bit of an easier time. If we take a look at this first equation, x minus y equals 2, I gave this intentionally because when I was looking at IXL, I did see a couple of systems that had this equation in it, and I just want to make sure that everybody would be able to solve it once they get to it. So remember, in all of these equations, since we're using the slope-intercept method to graph these lines, we want to make sure the y is by itself, which in that first equation it clearly isn't. So we have a positive x on the same side as the y. So first step would be to subtract the x on both sides. When I do that, I am left with negative y on the left, so be careful to bring down the negative sign. And remember, on the right-hand side, we always want to copy the x term followed by the constant. So since I have that negative sign in front of my y, I still need to do a little bit of division. There's really an imaginary coefficient of negative 1. So I want to divide every term by negative 1. And that's going to leave me with y is equal to x minus 2. So from that equation, I can see that my slope, the coefficient of x, is 1, which I'll make a fraction by putting it over 1. My y-intercept is negative 2, and that's going to be the first point that I plot on my graph. So I'm going to go to negative 2 on the y-axis. From there, the slope is positive, so I'm going to go up 1 and to the right 1, and the points are close together, so I want to do this a bunch of times. Then I'm going to go back to my y-intercept and go in the opposite direction to get points going the opposite way. So I'm going to go down 1 and to the left 1. And once I'm ready, I'm going to graph my line. Okay, on IXL, you won't have to worry about the use of a ruler or arrows at both ends. It'll kind of include it for you. And you're not going to have to write the equation on the line, but here I'm going to. So we have x minus y, the original equation, is equal to 2. Okay, my second equation, we have y equals 2x minus 1. The y is already by itself. So I have a slope of 2 over 1 and a y-intercept of negative 1. So I'm going to plot that negative 1 on the y-axis first. My slope is positive 2 over 1, so I know I'm going up 2 and to the right 1. So from my y-intercept, I'm going to count up 2 graph lines, go to the right 1, count up 2, go to the right 1. Remember, the whole point is to get these 2 lines to cross, so if I continue going up 2 and to the right 1, that's not really going to help me out. So I'm going to go back to my y-intercept, and I'm going to go in the opposite directions, and I'm going to go down 2 and to the left 1. I'm going to do that a couple of times. But once I plotted that first point going down 2 and to the left 1, I can see that that was on the other line as well. So I know that's going to be my solution. So I'm now going to connect these points. I'm going to write my original equation on the line. And my last step, which we don't want to forget, is to always identify that solution, which in this case is at negative 1, negative 3. So that is the solution to the first system of equations that I am solving. If we go on to the second problem, we have y equals negative 1/2 x plus 2. So fortunately, that is already in slope-intercept form. So I have a slope of negative 1/2 and a y-intercept of 2. So I'm going to plot my first point on the y-axis at positive 2. From there, my slope is a negative 1/2. So I'm going to go down 1 and to the right 2. And I'm going to do that a couple of times. Then we're going to go back to my y-intercept and go up 1 graph line and to the left 2. I'm going to graph my line. Okay, this is a little off, so I'm going to try to fix this without messing up the whole thing. Okay, there we go. And that equation was y equals -1/2 x plus 2. All right, my second equation is also in slope-intercept form, so I can identify my slope, which is a +1, and I'll make it a fraction. My y-intercept is -7, so I'm going to count down 7 graph lines on the y-axis, plot a point. My slope is a +1/1, so I know I'm going up 1 into the right one, and I'm going to keep doing that until I cross over that other line. Okay, so once I do that, I can connect the points for that equation. I'm going to write my original equation on the line, which was y equals x minus 7. And lastly, I want to identify my solution. So from the origin, I'm counting to the right. So I'm at +6. And have to go down 1 graph line, so my y value would be -1. So my solution for that system would be 6, -1. All right, so I just want to go over a couple of examples with you. I'm also going to include a short video with one IXL problem just to show you how to graph it on IXL, because obviously it's going to be done a little bit differently, so make sure you watch that before you attempt those problems. If you have any questions along the way today, please make sure you ask. Just send me a picture, snapshot of whatever problem you're having trouble with, and I will get back to you as soon as I can.